Just a quick disclaimer. This is going to be a bit of a longer video, so make sure you guys grab your coffee, hot chocolate, your breakfast protein, whatever it is. Make sure you guys grab that, and let's get into the video. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life, and this article comes to you guys from T-Mobile's newsroom. I'll leave a link to it in the description so you guys could check it out. So last night, I thought about something, so I put pen to paper. I did a little bit of math, and I wanted to share that in this video because I feel like that's gotten lost in all of this. So recently, T-Mobile has been striking a lot of deals all over the place, right? They're now getting involved in fiber. Then they just bought Mint Mobile. I mean, they're doing all kinds of stuff. So I backtracked a few years. And like I said, I put pen to paper. So T-Mobile bought Sprint. When that merger closed in April of 2020, they bought it for I think it was 26.5 billion. It was like an all stock deal. And they purchased Sprint, right? Mostly for the assets, right? The customers, cool, but they bought it mostly for the spectrum asset, right? They needed to fuel its own tower sites. Of course, they liked the Sprint towers and all the keep sites, but they needed to fuel their own sites with more spectrum. T-Mobile was a growing company at that time. They're taking tons of share. The network is starting to congest, so they needed more spectrum on air quickly. And that was the quickest way for them to do that. Right. In all honesty, just being honest, I don't think T-Mobile could have even waited for like a C-band auction or to let alone, I mean, they probably couldn't compete much there anyway financially, but they couldn't wait because their network was already congested at that point. High utilization across sites, the core. I mean, it was just really a mess at that time. Maybe not everywhere, but it was starting to really slow down. So they needed more spectrum and they needed it quick. That was the quickest way for them to obtain it. And it cost them about 26.5 billion. But since the merger, right, post-merger, a little over 4 years now, post-merger. Next year, April will be 5-year anniversary of the merger. T-Mobile has done a lot. And I don't think I've ever made a video kind of pointing that out. What T-Mobile has done since then and all the money that they've invested back into the company since the merger. And that's what I put on paper. So since the merger closed, T-Mobile has spent a ton of money, and I don't think anyone's pointed that out yet overall, how much T-Mobile has invested back into the business. Never mind dividends, never mind the buybacks. This is just straight purchase of more assets for the company. So since the merger, since they spent 26.5 billion, T-Mobile has actually spent more than what they spent on the Sprint merger, acquiring more assets since the merger. T-Mobile spent around 30 to 31 billion since the close of the merger. And for some of you, that might be a shock because you never looked at it like that. But I calculated up every single little move that they've done since then, and it totals up to about 31 billion. And that includes everything. The additional 600 megahertz purchases, the one from Columbia Capital that's already been approved by FCC was like 3.6 billion. The Comcast one that they're currently leasing, I put that at the high end. It's rumored to cost T-Mobile between 1 to 3 billion. I put that on the paper. I put it at 3 billion. That's an additional purchase that they will make later on, but I included it in the chart. So right now, T-Mobile is leasing pretty much to purchase the spectrum. So that's still coming too as well. So then I put the C-band auction that they invested, about 10.7 billion. DoD, they bought some of that. Auction 108, they bought some of that. That was like 304 million. Then I looked at the fiber purchases. I put Metronet on the list. I put Lumos on the list. They spent I rounded up about 1 billion on that. Mint Mobile, that was 1.35 billion. I put all that on the list. The US Cellular, although not fully closed yet, I put that on the list. That was 4.4 billion. The Metronet is like 4.9 billion. And that's all capital that they're investing. and it totals up, like I said, around 30 to 31 billion. So that's a lot of money. You total that up with the Sprint purchase, I mean, you're closing in on 60 billion now of just straight assets that they've purchased since the close of the merger. So looking at Verizon, they spent like over 50 billion on just C-band, and then they spent additional dollars getting early clearance on the A block and all that stuff, right? So you could make a comparison and say, look, for that 50, close to 60 billion that T-Mobile has been spending, right? They've gotten a lot more out of that money, if you will, right? Verizon spent that much on just one single purchase. Yes, it's contiguous. Yes, it's a nationwide asset. It's contiguous. It's a cleaner channel. I mean, you can make that argument, but in comparison, they've both Verizon and T-Mobile roughly since the close of the merger with Sprint. T-Mobile has spent around the same as Verizon did on C-band, and the list of what all the stuff that T-Mobile got for the same amount that they spent is a lot longer. I mean, for Verizon, I did the comparison last night, literally just C-band for that 50, 56, 57 billion. You just see C-band on the list. And then for the same similar amount for T-Mobile, I mean, the list is much longer, right? The 2600 purchases, more low band, the Metronet, Lumos, Auction 108, C-band, DoD, US Cellular, Mint Mobile. I mean, all the assets that T-Mobile has gotten out of that, which should lead to a much higher return on investment once it's all said and done for the same amount. So if I had to choose, right? If I had to choose a carrier that I felt most comfortable with in the future, like execution, making the right moves, making the right plays, out of the three mobile network operators, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile, I would have to go with the executive team at T-Mobile. They have, unless that team drastically changes, we might see a few people shift here and there. Some might retire, some might get replaced. But if that core structure at that team stays the same, I have to go with that leadership to execute better than AT&T and Verizon's leadership. I have to go with that. I think AT&T it has the second best leadership team, and I think AT&T is getting ready to make some bigger moves in the future once they delever, right? Once they pay down debt, AT&T is going to make more moves, right? We can speculate in an AT&T video on that, but I think Dish, more DoD. I mean, I think all of that is on the plate at AT&T, and they're looking to, the best ways to make that happen. But there's always a future outlook. There's always a planning period. So AT&T, I think, is already working on that, and I think they're the second best to execute in this case. And Verizon's leadership team is a distant third in my book, right? No matter how they report, if that's how they report the numbers, they are still not growing on consumer. They themselves are individually reporting it that way, and they're not growing on consumer. Until they can consistently grow on consumer again, that's when I'll have more confidence in that executive team. But for now, just no real confidence in the leadership team at Verizon, and I feel that team needs to be, they need to be all let go, and new blood needs to be brought in across the board. I mean, there might be some pieces that you leave, but they need a clean house, in my opinion. So in comparison, right, T-Mobile has spent about 30 to 31 billion in total since the close of the merger, and it's been more effective, right? It's a similar amount to what Verizon has spent on just C-band, but the T-Mobile dollars that they've spent, I mean, much more effective, right? They got more low band, more contiguous low band. They got more 2.5 in rural areas where they lacked 2.5. They're looking to make 2.5 more contiguous where it's fragmented. So they're doing all of that. And yes, they are putting up some capital. In some cases, they are able to do a spectrum swap using the DoD spectrum, which we've seen in about 14 markets recently, including mine. So their execution, man, they are just executing. And that's why I have such great faith in that team. Now, along the way, are they going to make some questionable choices? Are they going to make some decisions that are going to affect them negatively? Yes, we've seen that, and I'm acknowledging that. Right, they did price increases, and maybe they did do price increases on some accounts that are covered under price lock. But like I said in that video about the lawsuit, as much as it sucks for us, the consumer, they're just going to look at it as a cost of doing business. They need to evolve now. They spent all this money. They need to make a return on the investment. It's just how it is. Now, for many, they're still cheaper, right? You can still get a free line. You can still get stackable insider discounts. All that's still a possibility. T-Mobile knows how to operate in a way that helps them grow. That's what they're signaling to the street. They haven't changed their message. They are telling the street still today that they are a growing company. So until that messaging changes, T-Mobile will continue to have to figure out how to grow. 6, 7, 800,000. We will continue to see that until the company changes that course and strategy. They have not yet. Yes, they've gotten more expensive, but they told the street, they told the analysts that no matter the environment, they will remain the growing leader in the industry, and that's what it's been. They have outgrown their competitors in any environment. Slower, moderate, they've been outgrowing just like they said they would, right? AT&T for a little bit there, they were outgrowing T-Mobile. Then T-Mobile said they would settle the Sprint churn. They would work through that, and they've done all that. So if you go by what they say, and then when they start executing, it usually comes out to be true, right? They told us that they would start working that Sprint churn, looking at keeping the churn as low as possible, and then they would start outgrowing the company. And that's exactly what's been happening. That is exactly how it's all played out so far. So yes, I have the most confidence and faith in the T-Mobile leadership team to execute the best strategy. That's why I'm looking forward to what they present early fall. I'm really looking forward to that because they usually under how does the saying go? Under deliver, overperform, right? So they give us a guidance that's usually lower, and then they outperform that. Under promise, over deliver, right? That's what they do. And they have done that consistently, and they beat all the guidance. Even if the guidance is high, they figure out a way how to execute that. So interesting time at T-Mobile. Investments are coming. They're investing in the network. The operations costs are going up. They're ordering multi-gig backhaul. They're trying to get the spectrum more contiguous, the mid-band spectrum, the main workhorse, if you will. And they're doing all of that while still spending less than the competition, 9 to 10 billion, and while they still have, lower margins for now, lower free cash flow, but that will result in higher free cash flow. All the investments, right? It's going to result in return on investment. They're going to start charging the fiber pricing. I don't know what that looks like with the bundled offer in the MetroNet and Lumos markets, but they're going to start making some incremental revenue and profits from that as well. So I look forward to T-Mobile's team executing on the second, T-Mobile 2.0 phase, if you will, the next 5 years that they present early fall. I look forward to them executing against that goal, because that's going to be a goal where they're now the bigger company, right? Higher CapEx has to be higher, right? We've discussed that before. They need a higher cash infusion into the capital to deploy more, right? Now I feel it's really the time where they quickly closed the gap at the state level. The rural areas, why not? You already know you have a proven record. In the small market and rural areas that you've expanded into, you put retail and network, you win. It's that simple. So you follow that pedigree, it works, you're winning. So now you accelerate it. Just accelerate. It's really that simple. And now, the fiber piece fits very well into that because this team, as it stands, knows how to execute. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe if you're new. Follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Life. See y'all in the next one. Peace.